Teachers of Reddit, what are some positive trends you have noticed in today's youth? As a general rule, they are more understanding and forgiving if somebody is different. Don't get me wrong, some of them are still dicks to those kids, but it is a shrinking minority. Edit. Well, most upvoted comment of the day. Reading the comments, it seems many of you agree. That can only be a good thing. Agreed. Been teaching high school for 26 years. Students are much more accepting of differences. Much less overt homophobia, and the ones who would have been the least tolerant now keep their mouths shut. For the most part, bullying still occurs though. Also, I find students more willing to challenge perceived harassment. My GF is a teacher and she is amazed at how uncool drinking and driving is. Kids are like, "That's stupid, you will kill someone." They literally make fun of kids who do it. In my day, everyone drove drunk. Very positive change. Edit. For the 20,000 plus people saying, "My username doesn't check out," I'm going to have to ask you to do something risky and Google hard gay man. If you don't want to do it, you're missing out. Yahoo! People who have hard gay in their lives are better for it. I was in college right when Uber was introduced. My first year, everyone drunk and drove. I didn't drink till I was 20. So I was DD a lot luckily. But it was just something a bunch of people did. By the time I graduated, people were seen as reckless and stupid for driving after drinking. Just take an Uber. Don't be a dick is a common phrase. It's really awesome. High school teacher here. The most admirable quality of the rising generation is their ability to take anything, and I mean anything, and turn it into a meme. An asterisk quickly. Asterisk my god. I am a teacher at a high school in Missouri. All of the stereotypes you see in rural high schools are still prevalent. However, almost every group works harder academically. It is no longer cool to get Fs and fail. Even country boys who will never leave the farm or go to college care about getting passing grades. 600 plus students in our HS, by the way. It doesn't really surprise me about the country boys. Contrary to popular belief, farmers in the US actually have to be knowledgeable in several fields. Hey, now, the older generation knows this and encourages their kids in school when their own parents didn't. See the use of it. Kindness. My college students are kind and supportive to one another most of the time. Why be mean to each other when we're all getting fucked? Only thing stressful is parking in the classes we absolutely don't study for. Either way, I'm chillin' my biscotto. I asked my wife, primary teacher, and she says empathy and adaptability are the two traits she has seen dramatically improve over her last 15 years. Kids seem to be better at putting themselves in another's position and understanding their situation. Also, they seem to be much more flexible with changes, whether in the classroom or the outside world. Funnily enough, I feel like the internet and global culture contribute to this a lot. Granted, I think the internet can be a really bad influence on young kids, but it really removes the bubble a lot of us has when we were younger. Having a global perspective and understanding how different people are everywhere around the world also helps put our small interpersonal differences in perspective as well. I feel like that does a lot for the kids of today, though they probably don't even realize it. Spouse to a high school teacher. She had to say, they were born into the internet and social media. It is not something they had to learn. Also, as a result of which, they are also more self-reliant with research. And most importantly, contrary to the largest complaints, today's kids are extremely hardworking, and are less judgy of nerds. Less judgmental in general. My little sister, who is just 25, is a high school teacher, and she says that being the smart, well-rounded kid is the cool thing. Being the asshole slacker isn't cool at all. The majority of my students are in the 18 to 22 age range. I'm 37. For reference, students are far kinder than they ever were when I was a student. They go out of their way to help each other, and they are much less judgmental than my cohort was. For the most part, they're really polite and respectful. I know a lot of professors deal with problems from cell phones, but I find that if I tell them to use their phones respectfully and only for class purposes, they do. The only real problem I seem to have with this cohort is the constant headphone wearing. But I think that's a battle I'm just going to lose. Edit. Wow, my inbox. Thank you all for responding about how headphones help you in class. For what it's worth, I allow students who need them to use them, provided they're registered with disability services. I also allow them in lab classes. It just gets really frustrating in lectures for me to have to repeat instructions because students couldn't hear over their headphones, or when someone is too busy rocking out to listen to the lecture. I'm going to have to think of some strategies to help those students who need them while still making sure they're not being disruptive or missing important stuff. Edit the second. I am truly, deeply sorry for my spelling error. I am leaving my very small mistake up as a badge of shame. They are generally independent and self-reflective. When I first started teaching, I thought I had simply lucked out getting students who were consistently bright, engaged and curious. But having now taught at 3 different universities on 2 different continents, it seems to be a general trend across universities. They are also, as noted elsewhere, generally kind and empathetic, and both my male and female students are usually pretty emotionally mature. The 8-year-olds I teach really make a huge deal about plastic. We watched the Blue Planet 2 episode with them, and since then they have been so mindful and really want to protect the oceans. As an environmental engineer, I can tell you that awareness is the single most powerful tool to give us a chance of a future. Keep doing your crucial job. Mate, my 11-year-old asked for reusable straws for Christmas. So yeah, they are definitely more fired up about protecting the environment than we are. My daycare kids are much more likely to wash their hands than my generation was when we were their age. Lol. Kids are so much neater now. Once they're about 8 or 9, they pick up after themselves, are sort of organized, and don't litter when they can help it. I've even had kids at work that couldn't reach the trash can, so they'll come up to the counter and hand me their trash. Kids are openly kind and loving regarding their parents. I had a tough football player day in class once. I love my mom. She's my best friend. I see the old, my parents suck mentality falling by the wayside recently. I wonder if this has more to do with kids who grew up with shitty parents and don't want to repeat their mistakes. My parents were in no way shitty, but I really wish they handled a few situations differently. I always make mental notes of what to do or not do if I ever had a kid. Girls ask boys out more often. Boys are starting to expect girls to be more frank and straightforward with what they want more often. Other than that, just like my colleagues, generally kinder, more generous, understanding of differences, mature. On the other hand, I find them generally more sad, maybe more cynical, and overall quite happily pessimistic toward the future. A kind of, aha, we're so fucked vibe I feel sometimes. Edit. I got to say that I teach in France. It has its importance. Greater than an overall quite happily pessimistic toward the future. A kind of, aha, we're so fucked vibe I feel sometimes. I have a name for that. I call it motivational _nihilism _cynicism. I worried about my son, who has mild autism, for the first 10 years of his life. I kept telling him that middle school would be hard. Kids would tease him, etc., and that high school would be even harder in the same respect. 15 years ago, I would have been right. Fast forward to now, and I'm constantly amazed and grateful for how well he is treated. Even the jock kids and big snotty idiot kids who would make perfect bullies are inclusive, kind, and even sometimes protective of my son. I've told all of them how appreciative I am, and even got a few of them Christmas presents this year. Love those kids. Edit. A few people are doing the math. My son is 11 and I'm 30. He's not in high school yet, but he will be there with the same kids he is in middle school with. So I feel confident about it. Edit 2. My first gold. I'm not even a teacher. This was actually a huge thing when I was in high school several years back. There was one particular kid in our school who had autism, but was actually one of the smarter students, especially history for whatever reason, and everyone was super cool to him. Monsieur. Jocks let him participate in their sports, even going easy on him just to see him be happy. They even lined it up so he could play during a football game. Not an actual game, but 2 schools in town participated and it was a full-length game. Just not part of the season or whatever. Popular girls would talk with him, even giving him their numbers to talk with them outside of class. One even took him to prom every year. Nerdy kids would play video games with him in between classes and after school. People would always have a seat for him in the lunchroom, wherever he wanted to sit, even to the point of like arguing, "No, come sit with us," and stuff. He was invited to participate in pretty much any school club he wanted, and overall was just super welcomed by everyone. If anyone even had the balls to try to make fun of him, you were pretty much blacklisted by the students. It was super uncool to be even mildly rude to him. Monsieur. In many ways, he had a better high school experience than I did, and honestly I wouldn't have it any other way. I was super happy to see him flourish the way he did. Thank you for watching.